Science fiction has a unique way of either influencing or predicting the future. After all, most of it takes real-world theories and experiments and asks the question, what happens next? From technological advancements to the doom of the human species, these films have each asked and potentially answered those questions. And funny enough, many of those answers were right on the money. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 films that strangely predicted the future. Number 1, 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey is Stanley Kubrick's 1968 sci-fi masterpiece, which he co-wrote with notorious sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke. Kubrick and Clarke were inspired by Clarke's own short stories, including 1951's The Centennial and 1953's Encounter at Dawn, to adapt into film. 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the most groundbreaking films, as well as the most influential. Even if you've never seen it, you know quotes from it. You know the thunderous epic score, and you have seen the opening monolith scene parodied, paid homage, referenced, etc. One of the latest films to reference the opening of A Space Odyssey being 2023's smash hit blockbuster Barbie. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, astronaut Dr. David Bowman is sent on a mission with his team, who are assisted by the ship's artificial intelligence, HAL 3000. Over the course of the film, HAL 3000 starts acting strange and becoming increasingly more insubordinate. The most obvious future prediction that came true is voice recognition artificial intelligence. Today we have Alexa, Siri, Cortana, just to name a few. Although as far as I can tell, they aren't antagonistic. On July 20th, 1969, just over a year after 2001 was released, NASA put a man on the moon for the first time. The film did predict we would land on and colonize the moon. Or it could have been that Kubrick had NASA scientists working on the film and received some insights while keeping things as scientifically accurate as possible on the film. Whatever the case, you can experience 2001: A Space Odyssey on Max, Sling, Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 2, Soylent Green. Unfortunately, we are practically living in the Soylent Green future, where global warming is destroying the environment. Yes, climate change is very real, regardless of what any spray tan dipshit says. In Soylent Green, the food supply is also controlled by a single entity. We're almost at that point, as about 6 corporations control all the food supply. Food is also scarce in the film. In our case, food scarcity is a direct result of capitalism. We have an abundance of food, it's just not properly distributed, but I digress. Soylent Green is a classic 70s sci-fi thriller starring Charlton Heston as a detective for the New York Police Department. He's investigating the murder of the Soylent CEO and uncovers the company's dark secrets. This film is an adaptation of the novel Make Room by Harry Harrison. Most people these days come into Soylent Green knowing the twist, so the film is just an engaging murder mystery set in a dystopian future for them. But it must have been an absolute jaw-dropper in '72. If you know, you know. If not, check it out on Google Play, Prime, or Fandango. Number 3, Blade Runner. I've watched Ridley Scott's Blade Runner 2 or 3 times now. I'm putting it out there that I'm still not a fan. It's bloated in a thinly plotted, or maybe it's over-plotted film. There are about 5 cuts of this film, and I have only seen the theatrical. But I'm not here to rag on the film because I appreciate it for what it is and its importance in sci-fi. Blade Runner's original theatrical cut was released in 1982. It should have been a surefire hit as it starred megastar Harrison Ford as protagonist Rick Deckard, who was in between critical smash hits Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Empire Strikes Back, with director Ridley Scott, who had just done critical smash hit Alien. Unfortunately, Blade Runner performed poorly in its initial release, but it thrived in the home market. I can argue all day about the script, but the film is a technical masterpiece. Its visual aesthetics are gorgeous, and just the scope of its production is breathtaking. I will say that I believe Denis Villeneuve matched it with his 2017 sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner's biggest prediction was climate change. The film takes place in a 2019 LA that had been immersely polluted, where even the rain is acid. Although we did know about climate change in the 70s, but Reagan-era politics effectively ignored it. Arguably, the biggest prediction in Blade Runner is rampant advertising everywhere, also a result of Reagan's deregulations on advertising. You can stream the original version over on Fandango or Google Play. Number 4, The Running Man. The Running Man hit theaters in 1987 with 80s action star Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead. The script was written by Stephen E. D'Souza, who scribed quite a few iconic action films, like 48 Hours, Die Hard, and Judge Dredd. D'Souza adapted a short story by Stephen King called The Running Man that used King's pseudonym, Richard Bachman. The Running Man takes place in the then dystopian future of around 2017, which is fitting considering who was running for our country at the time. Our global economy had collapsed and the U.S. became a police state. Captain Ben Richards, played by Schwarzenegger, is punished for not opening fire on starving people protesting. After being imprisoned and escaping, he is framed for several crimes, including killing the protesters from the opening sequence. Ben is selected by the network to participate in a reality TV show, Running Man, in which convicts must play games for their life. Very Squid Games, only it's Schwarzenegger going toe-to-toe with hulky dudes with chainsaws and whatnot. The predictions that came true were plenty. We are currently living in a police state. We have an abundance of reality TV, and the media is practically homogenized, and the biggest propagator of propaganda is Fox News, with propaganda that is deemed so dangerous that it's banned in Europe, and yet is also the most watched news station in the US. We're facing food scarcity. We've had the biggest global economic collapses since the Great Depression in 2008 and 2020. The use of deepfake is even used in the final act of the film. Though Running Man received modest acclaim upon its release, it's immensely topical now. I highly recommend watching it on MGM Plus, Sling, Prime, Google Play, Fubo, Philo, or Fandango. Number 5, The Truman Show. While legendary comedic actor Jim Carrey is well known for his impeccable comedic timing, brilliant physical humor, and beautifully unhinged antics, he is also an incredible dramatic actor. The genius with Peter Weir's The Truman Show is that it showcases Carrey's ability to do both comedy and drama seamlessly. The film is labeled as a sci-fi comedy, and it tautly blends the comedy, drama, and sci-fi by being lighter on the sci-fi and more serious on the comedy. At the same time, The Truman Show lets both the comedy and drama derive from the character, Truman himself. In the film, Jim Carrey plays the lead in the show that he doesn't even know he's a part of, called The Truman Show. Since birth, Truman's life has been a TV show with people working behind the scenes to influence it, as well as paid sponsors that fund it. Since its inception, television became exponentially more prevalent in the everyday reality of people and in the domestic sphere. The writing was on the wall, and scriptwriter Andrew Niccol transcribed it carefully in a sharp satire. With video cameras being increasingly portable, user-friendly, and widely available, the more the general population could record their daily life. We got reality TV in the early 2000s. We got YouTube in the mid-2000s, where people could post their life with no middlemen. And now we have a whole blogger and influencer culture that stream their life and get sponsored. So like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to Prime, Google Play, or Fandango to view The Truman Show. Number 6, Minority Report. Director Steven Spielberg brought his A game to 2002's Minority Report. The film is an adaptation of Philip K. Dick's 1956 novella, The Minority Report. Philip K. Dick is notorious for his thought-provoking sci-fi that has a knack for predicting the future. Minority Report is every bit as cerebral as it is visually stunning. This sci-fi thriller takes place in the 2050s, where technology can predict who will be a criminal. It stars Tom Cruise as John Anderton, who is a police chief of the pre-crime division. They use precogs, as in precognition, to see into the future. Despite what one may think of him personally, Tom Cruise will remind you why he was once a huge star on the silver screen. Regardless, Minority Report predicted a handful of techs, particularly post-9/11 invasive technologies. This includes facial recognition, mobile cameras from the likes of drones, even iris scans. We also have all sorts of VR as well as gesture-based user interfaces, and even ads tailored to us. This is actually quite terrifying now, especially with incompetent and immoral tech bros in the highest places of government. Neither Philip K. Dick nor Steven Spielberg intended to predict the future. It was supposed to be a warning. So heed the warning over on Prime or Fandango. Number 7, Contagion. Director Steven Soderbergh released his global pandemic film Contagion in 2011. It seems pretty obvious what it predicted, but I'll address that in a moment. Soderbergh came onto the scene with his gritty indie drama Sex, Lies, and Videotape in 1989, which kicked off the 90s indie movement with the likes of directors Richard Link, later Kevin Smith, and Quentin Tarantino. With them, we got Slacker in 1990, Clerks in 94, and Reservoir Dogs in 92. While Steven Soderbergh clearly has a versatile filmography that includes a diverse array of films like Traffic, Ocean's 11, and Magic Mike, there are common themes and aesthetics that run through his films. Soderbergh likes striking color palettes and was even one of the first directors to explore color correcting on a blockbuster with 2000's Traffic. You'll often see Soderbergh use multiple camera perspectives simultaneously, and he frequently makes great use of the jump cut. Thematically, Soderbergh has character-focused films reflecting the human condition amidst all sorts of conflict. This is clearly explored in Contagion, as it begins with a woman who arrives home from China feeling under the weather. It's discovered that she has contracted a virus. It's a respiratory illness actually inspired by 2004's SARS COVID outbreak. The virus is extremely lethal and spreads like wildfire. In the film, we follow several characters' narratives as they cope with the pandemic. In 2020, our world experienced a global pandemic caused by the coronavirus, which was also a respiratory illness similar to SARS. During the early days of COVID-19 pandemic, around March of 2020, Contagion saw a massive uptick in streaming, and according to Warner Brothers, the studio who produced the film, it became the most streamed picture of theirs behind Harry Potter. The governmental response in Contagion was also similar to the COVID-19 response, as it took a massive global multi-agency response from the CDC to the WHO, and on an unprecedented scale to combat said virus. For COVID, we managed to make a groundbreaking vaccine using cutting-edge tech with research and resources from all over the world. Funding is typically the reason why other vaccines aren't made so fast. Now just imagine if the US joined the rest of the world with universal health care, and we allocated funds towards science and medicine instead of funding wars and lining the pockets of corporate interests. But I digress. Catch Contagion on Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 8, Her. Spike Jonze, whose directorial debut being John Malkovich, written by award-winning screenwriter Charlie Kaufman, would go on to win Best Screenplay for his 2013 Best Picture nominee, Her. Her stars eccentric, acclaimed actor Joaquin Phoenix, playing writer and recently divorced Theodore Twombly. His job is to write sympathy cards and love letters professionally for beautifullyhandwrittenletters.com. In short, Theodore is a hopeless romantic who just separated from the love of his life, his first and only love. This really tees off the plot of Her, as Theodore downloads an advanced OS 1, that adapts and learns from its interaction with its user. He is lovelorn, depressed, but treats this AI kind of as a therapist at first, also giving it a feminine voice. The OS is voiced by Scarlett Johansson, who is a badass, an immensely talented actress that's name alone can make a person's heart flutter. Her script is whip smart and clearly saw what was coming. We have AI and AI interfaces that mimic people and personalities. And yes, people are developing bonds with AI. So interface with Her on Netflix, Video, or Redbox. Number 9, Interstellar. Acclaimed director Christopher Nolan blessed us with another sci-fi epic in 2014. But instead of taking us inside the mind, he took us to outer space with Interstellar. Nolan is known for masterfully taking complex concepts and simplifying them for the average moviegoer, while not insulting our intelligence. My honest opinion about the film is it's not as cerebral as people think, nor as concise as it should be. But that's a minor critique. Interstellar is a technical marvel with standout performances from its cast, which include Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Matt Damon, John Lithgow, Michael Caine, Timothée Chalamet, and Mackenzie Foy. And you can't go wrong with a Hans Zimmer score, which is ethereal and beautiful for the film. Interstellar partially takes place in 2067. Humanity is facing global extinction due to increasing in climate weather, as well as food shortages due to crop blight. And that's what the film predicted. It's 2025, and we are there. Enough said. Anyway, Michael Caine plays a NASA physicist who is planning on sending the population of Earth through a wormhole. On the other side of wormhole are 3 planets of possible habitability. But first, former astronaut Cooper, played by McConaughey, is tasked with his team to go through and figure out which one people can start over on. Interstellar also depicts on film the most scientifically accurate rendition of a black hole. The image was so complex it took 100 hours of frame to render. When the film came out, we didn't actually have a photo of an actual black hole. That changed in 2019 when the first photo of a black hole was taken by Katie Bowman, an engineer and computer scientist. So rock it out and over to Netflix, Fubo, Sling, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango to witness Interstellar. Number 10, Colossus, The Forbin Project. 1970s sci-fi thriller Colossus, The Forbin Project was adapted from Denis Feltham Jones' 1966 novel Colossus. The film revolves around a supercomputer defense system called Colossus that is interconnected to a global defense network. It essentially is an advanced AI. As topical and well-made as this film is, I do not find it funny that Colossus's primary display resembles text ticker tape on a bulky screen. In Colossus, The Forbin Project, the Colossus program is created by a computer engineer, Dr. Charles Forbin. He's played by German-American actor Eric Braeden, who was primarily a prolific TV actor throughout his long career. The first message that Colossus displays or communicates is, there is another system. Moments later, the CIA learns Russia has also developed their own supercomputer AI system, Guardian. The CIA presumes there must be a Russian mole. The film definitely reflects Cold War paranoia and the space race of time. Tensions with Russia are still something we are dealing with today. As the film progresses, the AI gains sentience and takes over all other computer-related systems. Dr. Forbin works with Dr. Cleo Markham, played by Susan Clark, as well as the CIA and the Kremlin to take down Colossus. Colossus, the Forbin Project's main prediction, is the proliferation of AI and a reliance on computers in every area of our life. The film also predicts AI's ability to calculate and even evolve. You can download it over on iTunes. Number 11, 1984. George Orwell's 1949 novel, 1984, is arguably his most prolific literary works. It's also one of the most important and sublime written warnings on how it would look if a fascist government took over. This makes sense why a film adaptation would come out during the Reagan era, which planted the seeds of fascism we see in our government today. Through deregulation, demonizing immigrants, blaming our welfare state on POC, and ending the fairness doctrine that would give way to propaganda machines like Fox News. Director Michael Radford was spot on releasing the film 1984 in 1984. Radford started out as a documentary filmmaker, then made his name in television before hitting the big screen. The documentarian in him is evident in the film, both aesthetically and how he constructs the narrative. 1984 follows Winston Smith, played by acclaimed British actor John Hurt, working at a place called the Ministry of Truth, where his job is literally to rewrite history. We're immersed in his day-to-day life, living under a treacherous totalitarian state that I'd say the US's GOP copied if I believed they'd ever read a book. Things begin to change when Winston meets Julia and they engage in a dalliance. The government in 1984 tells you to ignore your eyes and ears, ignore experts. J.D. Vance's motto. As for the rewriting history, the right wing in the U.S. has been doing that with indigenous people as well as African Americans for decades. They've doubled down since Trump took office in 2016, where more and more books are being banned, slavery not being taught in schools, and recently, the White House erased articles about trans people as well as any information regarding LGBTQ. You can stream this woke film from 40 years ago on Pluto, MGM+, Sling, Prime, Google Play, Philo, and Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.